He had to beat him off with sticks.
Now to put stuff out there that stimulates discussion.
Should be put up a picture.
Really not good.
You ready?
Yes, right here, trustee Kaminsky. There's right, they're up here. There's some in the bottom of that tray where the yellow forms are. Lots of fish back there.
Like a dart. Okay. I'd like to call this meeting to order, a regular meeting of the Village Board on Monday, May 20th at 7 PM in the Germantown Village Hall Boardroom and also can be accessed via WebEx. This meeting has been given public notice in accordance with sections 19.83 and 19.84 of the Wisconsin statutes in such form that will apprise the general public and news media of subject matter that is intended for consideration and action. Roll call shows all village board members present except for trustee Pieper, who at this time might be joining us shortly. I don't have any notice if she's not coming, so we'll look forward to her joining us shortly. At this time, I'll ask us all to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the States of America, the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next item is President's Report. The only thing I have to report tonight is just a general thank you to all of those that were involved with the weekend event of MyFest. The weather helped it to be a very successful event. The crowds were very good on all 3 days, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. A lot of volunteers that to help make it successful. First and foremost, would like to thank Irene and Ken Miller for all their hard work. They were very, very present there and working hard throughout. And I know the organization and the planning that they put forth really helped to make it a great success. And all the other people that helped to staff the booths, food booths and the different types of raffle tickets and 50/50 raffle also made it very successful. I'd like a special shout out to this year's MyFest queen, who was especially welcoming in the sense of staying there for the whole day and contributed a lot by walking around and helping to sell pull tabs. Her name was Stacy Krieger. And she was just a joy to be with and around and just very pleasant to everybody. So I really appreciate the help that she did. Her parents should be very proud because she represented her position very well. So I appreciate that and thank her for that. That's all I have for President's report. Next item is then the announcements of forthcoming events of public interest, committee and department reports. We'll start with committee chairs. Trustee Kaminsky.
Public Works will meet in this boardroom on June 5th, which is a Wednesday at 5:30 PM.
Trustee Rick Miller.
General Government and Finance will meet on Monday, June 17th, 5:30 in this room.
Thank you. Trustee Hudson.
Good evening. Public Safety will meet in this room Monday, June 3rd at 6 PM.
Thank you. Does anyone else have anything else they'd like to bring forward in regards to announcements of forthcoming events of public interest, committee or department reports? Right, seeing there is nothing else. We'll then go on to citizen input. If there's anyone within our audience or joining us WebEx that'd like to participate in citizen input, you're welcome to do so at this time. If you're within our audience, we ask you if you could please fill out one of the yellow slips that we have in the back and turn it in when you come forward. If you're joining us via WebEx, just please make your presence known and your intentions known to participate in citizen input, and we will we'll have the moderator recognize you and bring you forward for that purpose. So is there anyone within our audience that would like to come forward for citizen input at this time? Yes, sir. Oh, okay, good.
Sir?
Or
Yep, you can go.
name is Michael Anderson, and I'm just commenting on the proposed text amendment, and just wanted to put a little input on what kind of benefits it may have to businesses like mine and others as well. It's going to give so essentially right now, this text amendment allows, horticultural services and other things like snow removal, that type of thing. I believe there's also something in there with temporary, or not temporary, but hoop structures and that type of thing in there. And allowing some of that to go into the M1 zoning will allow businesses like mine to be able to actually consolidate operations and bring all of our operations to one location. In addition to bring, that also involves bringing quite a few jobs into the area. Currently, I believe it's sorry. Also, by doing this too, it will help give additional citizens and other contractors, and including municipality, ability to use and shop locally as well. I guess that's kind of what I had for that. So,
Okay, thank you. Appreciate you coming forward. Is there anyone else that wishes to come forward at this time for citizen input?
Sarah Larson, Butternut Road. My comments are concern over financial stewardship as well as leadership. The more I start reviewing prior meetings and diving into agendas, the more alarmed I get with the decision-making that I'm seeing. And hearing statements about money and funding is alarming. Tonight at the Finance Committee, they talked about ARPA funds distribution, and there was 140,000 that was allocated to the Goldendale Trail. And there was discussion about other money that had already been allocated there. And so why not just go ahead and use that pot of money? And then it said, well, we borrowed for it, so why not leave things as is and that money can be distributed elsewhere? How about we not spend and try saving and planning in advance for expenditures versus looking for free handouts of government money or lending on the taxpayer's dollar? Then looking at tonight's agenda E, I would like to know an explanation of where the breakdown was on these impact fees, that it could be $1 million difference that a business is seeking. And now we're refunding like 310,000 or whatever it is. Where is that breakdown? The fact that these haven't been looked at for 10 years, the intent of an impact fee is to cover the cost of things. And we all know supply chain and COVID, costs are changing all the time. So this comes down to leadership and management. And I see that in other areas in terms of a housing study that is overdue, that our back is against the deadline on, the assessment schedule, and not being on top of that. These things, they're accumulative. And then when there was discussion in the other meeting about, well, this impact fee, where does this reside? Well, the village administrator said, we get information from this department and that department and that department. Well, sure, you gather information, but guess what? The buck stops with someone. There has to be a leader of the ship, and you have to have a distinct path of priorities and understanding infrastructure and having your house in order before you have all these pie in the sky, nice feel-good projects that you want to do.
Thank you for coming forward. Is there anyone else that wishes to come forward at this time for citizen input?
Melanie Smythe, N140W17938 Cedar Lane. Good evening. I agree with what Ms. Larson said in the main. And additionally, not to reiterate some of the things, I do actually appreciate one of the things that happened at GGF, and that was a very confusing presentation about benefits management was what failed. And so my suggestion is that whoever is going to put together the next presentation of this, please make it more clear. I mean, it was listening to it and watching the faces of the trustees being very confused. It really needs, if it's that complicated, diagrams, more information should be presented, especially when there's a $10,000 apparent difference in the potential contracts. The other thing that I would like to suggest is that for the RFP for the impact fees, we had an example at the earlier meeting of the staff actually going out and conducting a survey, which didn't cost additional money from consultants. They went out and they looked at various costs for health benefits, and were able to bring that information back. And I think that's great. That's fantastic. That's why we have staff. The last question that I have is about the budget process. When are we going to hear more about the, second to last, when are we going to hear more about the zero-based budgeting process? We're getting close to that. And it struck me that a lot about the benefits conversation was really a budgeting discussion that should have occurred. Perhaps it was premature to be having that discussion tonight and not part of the budgeting. So I think we need to hear more about what this year's zero-based budgeting process is going to be. You've made changes every year for the last 3 years, and it's getting a lot better, so I commend you all for that. But we still need to get better. There's still room for improvement in that process, and it needs to be a true zero-based budget process. Now, the last question that I have is about this Heritage Place matter. And maybe it's come up in other meetings, but I've been coming to these meetings for almost 3 years now, and I haven't heard about it before. Perhaps it's older than 3 years, but it seems like there should have been some notice that there was some kind of a suit or something going on. I mean, you've had apparently closed session meetings about this, and I can understand that from a discussion standpoint because of negotiations, but why is this just coming up now? Question. Those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you for coming forward. Is there anyone else who wishes to come forward at this time for citizen input?
Scott Heffley, W159 and 10514 Old Farm Road, Germantown. Couple comments that I was going to make were covered already, but full disclaimer, I'm not really happy. I'm kind of upset with some of the things going on here, so I'm going to bring those forth. They're probably unpopular, but here goes. As far as I know, we have 3 trustees with accounting experience. Trustee Pieper, Mr. Miller, you have a background, and Meg Cutts, accounting, okay? I want you 3 to look into the continuing issues we keep having getting our financial house in order. We keep seeing these big mistakes, and I'm getting kind of frustrated hearing about that. I've come into these meetings for almost 3 years also. As you know, I come to too many, you might say, but we're making mistakes and big mistakes, okay? And the taxpayers, we're all paying the price for this, seemingly unwillingness to address this. You can't just give free passes to people. I'll get into that in a minute. The impact fee issue, you guys knew about it because it was in closed session. Nobody in the committee knew about it. That's fine. You got to, figure out your suits or lawsuits or whatever the heck they are. But this is a surprise. Now we all get to hear about what we're doing. Boy, is that wonderful. That's a mistake. I'm sorry. It's a failure. It's a mistake. In the private sector, people would be fired for making those mistakes. And you all know that. You were in the private sector. This doesn't fly in the real world. How it flies in public sector, I have no idea. I'm kind of happy I'm not up there because I'd be embarrassed if I was sitting up there knowing that this happened and then, oh my gosh, 300,000, we'll just find it somewhere and the taxpayers will pay for it. That's just, that's abject failure and stupidity. Why are we continuing to have these problems? So I see the application for a certificate for the GFOA for excellence in financial reporting. You got to give me a break on that. Financial excellence in financial reporting. That's what we're doing. 2022, we had an $800,000 overstatement in the budget that they tried to spend 4 times. We find out it's 300. My bad. Now we got $310,000. We got to rebate back to people. We overcharged the developer. Is that excellence in financial reporting? I don't think so. If you think it is, call me privately. Let's have a discussion because I don't think it is at all. Okay. So what we need, this is my opinion. I have my 3 minutes. You got to hire an outside firm and conduct a forensic audit of your books. There's all sorts of goofy stuff going on. We can't just keep making mistakes over and over again. And I see you, Terry, shaking my head. You're one of my trustees. Are you putting up with this? Do you think this is good? Mr. Baum, you're my trustee. Do you think this is a great idea, how things are going here? I'm hoping anyone on this board, or you can contact me. You all know how to get a hold of me. You want to talk about it privately, I'm your man, okay? I never shy away from that. Final thing is, and I hope this did not happen, I heard from 3 people at MyFest it happened. There was apparently, a table trustees were at, and I heard that some people there were showing off some sort of drawings of some development we have coming forward. Well, I'm on the Economic Development Commission. I don't know anything about it. Now, if it did happen or didn't happen, I'd like to know. But if it happened in closed session, I surely want to know that that was not put out there to the public, okay? I surely hope it was not. If it was, I want to know why. And I think I deserve to know why. I am a resident. I pay taxes like you all do. So the fact that 3 people told me that know me, is that just an urban myth? I don't know. I want answers. Thank you.
My microphone is stuck. Oh. Okay. As far as the last comment, there is an independent source that comes in and audits the village every year. It's called Baker Tilly. And they do audit the books and go through it, and that's part of the end of the year review. And so that does occur on a regular basis. Is there anyone else that wishes to come through at this time or come forward at this time for citizen input or public appearance? Is there anyone joining us via WebEx that would like to come forward? I have been informed that Trustee Pieper has joined us via WebEx, just so all are aware, and when you're doing vote count or roll call, you're aware as well. If there are no other people wishing to come forward for citizen input, we can go on to the next item on the agenda, which is consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve consent agenda items A and B as presented.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve consent agenda items A and B. Is there any discussion on that motion to approve? No discussion? We'll do a roll call vote, please.
Trustee Warren.
Aye.
Trustee Ketz.
Aye.
Trustee Baum.
Aye.
Trustee Jan Miller.
Aye.
Trustee Hudson.
Aye.
Trustee Rick Miller.
Aye.
Trustee Kaminsky. Trustee Pieper.
Aye.
Sounded like aye.
Village President Walter.
Aye.
And Trustee Pieper, that was very faint. Can you please restate that?
Were you asking me?
Trustee Pieper, can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me?
Barely.
Just, you're very distant.
Okay, I said aye.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is new business. We start with new business item A. Bryan Building Corp., agent for Green Bay Packaging, Inc., property owner located at North 128 West 21600 Holy Hill Road, conditional use permit to allow encroachment into a 25-foot wetland setback. On tonight's agenda for action, to give us more information, background on this new business item, we'll turn the meeting over to our Director of Community Development, Jeff Retzloff.
Make a motion to approve as presented.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. Anybody want to hear the presentation? Trustee Miller, Jan Miller would like to hear it, so Director Retzloff. What'd you do? Click them off?
Just a minor technical glitch.
It's my water. There we go.
The Bryan Building Corp., agent for Green Bay Packaging, Inc., property owner, is requesting approval of a conditional use permit to allow development in a 25-foot wetland setback associated with reconstruction of the Holy Hill Road driveway for the proposed 270,000 square foot light manufacturing facility located in the northeast corner of the Holy Hill Road at I-41 interchange. The drawing on the screen shows the approved site plan, the conditionally approved site plan. The area circled is the area in question where the conditional use permit concerns encroachment or development within a 25-foot wetland setback area associated with reconstruction of the main driveway into the site. As discussed in the CUP application, the proposed Holy Hill Road driveway that is needed for access to the new Green Bay packaging facility requires reconstruction of the Holy Hill Road intersection and realignment of 48th Street in a manner that cannot be located outside of a wetland located north of the existing intersection, referred to as wetland number 4. It's shown on screen. On the right side, the white shaded area is wetland number 4. There's a label there, but it's in black and difficult to see. As you can see on this drawing, reconstruction of the driveway and 48th Street intersection will impact that wetland area. And as a result, approximately 10,000 square feet of wetland will need to be filled, and an additional 13,470 square feet of setback area, not wetland, but the setback area adjacent to it, will be impacted by grading and filling associated with this reconstruction. Under the village's shoreland wetland zoning code, development or encroachment into wetland setback is permitted with a conditional use permit. The intent is to require a more rigorous protection of the remaining wetland areas through the planting of protective vegetation and the like. Under the code, the level of compensation, if you will, for those impacts, for the type of impact in this case, which is at a height greater than 3 feet, is a 2-to-1 ratio. So a minimum of 27,140 square feet of area of compensation is required for the 13,470 square feet of impact. In the applicant's narrative, there is details on the amount of compensation that's proposed. It's a total of 28,580 square feet, more than the minimum required, and it's to be allocated in 2 different areas. As shown on the screen, the purple outlined areas that lie adjacent to the road reconstruction, those areas will be planted with a vegetation that's wetland friendly, if you will, and a larger area shown in the orange or sort of tannish color off to the right, the southeast corner of the site, will be planted with wetland-friendly vegetation as well in an attempt to, adjacent to the remaining wetland and in an attempt to encourage further wetland creation, if you will, over time, as we've discovered on many sites throughout the village. The Plan Commission recommendation is to approve the proposed conditional use permit subject to 3 conditions.
Questions? We have a motion, further discussion. Trustee Chan Miller.
Thanks for your overview, Jeff. So on page 5 of 6, I'm not sure which drawing it is. Looks like this drawing. Well,
Page back a couple of pages. With the orange highlight in the lower right-hand corner of the site.
the red circle, that one. Okay, can you explain the green area in the middle of the road? Green shaded area.
That's the area that will be filled. That's wetland area that will be filled by construction of the road.
Okay. I thought I read that they have to get permission from the DNR to do this.
They do, and they are filing, if they haven't already, the application, a general application to allow the filling of 10,000 square feet or less of wetland area.
I thought they had to reapply. Did you apply once? You have to.
Hi, Caitlin LaJoy, 3885 North Brookfield Road. So we did apply to the DNR to see if those were exempt wetlands, and that came back not. And so now we're going through the formal process to fill them. And so with that, we're assuming that the next item, item B, with the letter agreement between Bryan Building and the village gets approved, then tomorrow we're going to submit to the DNR for the actual general fill permit. So we'll begin that process.
Wouldn't you need the DNR first before coming to the village? I'm asking.
The intent is to file an application jointly between the village and the developer. And that is subject to the next item on the agenda. There's an agreement that's proposed between the village and the developer concerning that application. Because the part of the wetland area that's to be filled is, as shown here, would be dedicated right-of-way and village-owned property. So we are agreeing
responsible
to file a joint application for the filling of that. But as indicated in the letter, and we can get into the details of that at the next agenda item, the village is not wanting to take responsibility for any cost associated with that. That would be the responsibility of the developer.
So,
Right. But as it stands, it's not exempt. It would be, okay. So I'm throwing this out there because I don't like filling in wetlands. Is a bridge, some type of a road bridge?
is a condition, can I ask a question? Is a conditional use permit for encroachment upon the 25-foot of the wetland setback, not for filling in wetland, correct?
You are correct. It
So
concerns
it's
the
really a
physical-
discussion for item B, when what, in the tack that you're going down, trustee Chan Miller. What we're talking about is being close to a wetland that's recognized as a wetland and being close within the 25-foot setback, not the actually filling into the wetland, which is kind of what item B is more involved in. So in this instance, the comments that would be part of the discussion is what your feeling of being within that 25-foot wetland setback would be.
Okay. Then my next question is, on this access road, that's on the left, that I think it's taking the place of 48th Street.
It is 48th Street. It's just simply being relocated, the eastern portion of it.
Right. There was a comment at one of the Plan Commission meetings, and they were concerned about big trucks making that bend.
Correct. And we did do the auto turn, and I think it's shown on one of the earlier slides. So we did vet that with the civil engineer, and the correct truck was used.
There shows the truck radiuses work.
Okay. All right. Okay. So it's only about the setback, wetland setback?
That's what the conditional use permit is for, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Further discussion on a motion to approve? No further discussion? Do I need roll call for conditional use? No? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
One opposed? Motion carries. Next item is new business item B, resolution approving a letter agreement with Bryan Building concerning wetland fill related to the relocation of 48th Street.
Motion to approve as presented.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to approve? No discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
One opposed? Motion carries. Thank you for coming. Next item under new business is item C, Jim Toller, agent for Berean Bible Society, property owner located at North 112, West 17761, Mequon Road, a two-lot certified survey map on
Motion to-
tonight's agenda for action.
Motion to approve as presented.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to approve? No discussion. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None opposed. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is new business item D, Village of Germantown Community Development Department proposed ordinance for text amendments to Chapter 17 of the Village of Germantown Municipal Code, 17.07 temporary uses, 17.08 definitions, 17.33 M1 limited industrial district, and 17.41 accessory uses, buildings, and structures on tonight's agenda for action. To give us more information background on this new business item, we'll turn the meeting once again over to our Community Development Director, Jeff Retzlaff.
Thank you, Mr. President. Staff is proposing four what I would term minor text amendments to portions of the zoning code, the specific sections as you alluded to. First Amendment, Section 17.07, are simply adding some language to clarify that more than one temporary use permit may be granted in succession for a particular use or activity. Amendment number 2 creates some definitions for horticultural services, snow removal services, and puts in a cross-reference for the definition of temporary storage structure already in Section 17.41 of the code. Third Amendment concerns adding horticultural services and snow removal services to the list of conditional uses that may be allowed in the M1 Limited Industrial District with a conditional use permit. And amendment number 4 clarifies the number and type of temporary storage structures that can be installed on residential and agricultural property. Are there any questions? I'm open for that.
Make a motion to approve item D as presented.
Second.
Motion made by trustee Baum, seconded by trustee Hudson. Is there any discussion on the motion to approve? Trustee Chan Miller.
Jeff, why are we going from 30 days to 180 days? That seems excessive.
As indicated in the write-up, it's difficult to keep track, frankly, given the amount of staff and the number of temporary structures that people put up on their property without even questioning whether or not a permit is required.
Okay.
And so doing those that do, we typically get requests for an extended period. And frankly, staff, in my opinion, to change it to 180 days will be better for us in terms of administration and enforcement.
Why don't you explain the process for me? If I have a storage unit I want to put up on my property, what would be my steps for coming to the village and
Reach
getting a
out to the
permit?
village, ask if a permit or permission is required. If it isn't, if you're not talking to somebody in building inspection services or planning and zoning, I'm sure village staff would refer you to one of those departments or divisions to discuss it with staff. We would let you know. We would ask specific questions. What do you have? In terms of a temporary storage structure, what's its intended use? How long do you intend to have it up? Where are you going to put it on your property? And then make the decision and issue a permit if one is required.
Well, doesn't the building department do this, the Safe Build?
No,
They don't issue permits.
not for a temporary use structure like this. It's a planning and zoning issue.
Okay, so they come to your department.
Yeah.
And do we have these forms online?
It would be a zoning permit typically. That's online, yes.
Okay, so it's already online. And why is this hard to keep track of?
We don't have enough staff.
Right. So it doesn't go into some sort of file and then after 30 days, it comes back up again. You can time these things.
It's time consuming, yes.
No, you can time a permit. You can time it so it pops up like a week before.
Yes, and I'm just saying it's time consuming.
On the computer? So the other question I have, since it seems like on 17.141, it was designed and developed for residential accessory use in building structures and restrictions. And I see in one of these that it also, on one of the points, it also includes M1. I'm not sure which.
I'm not sure where that reference is. You'll have to help me.
Family, RD. Oh, RD. What's RD2?
Residential.
That's a residential district.
Okay.
The 1 and 2 family district.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
One is 17 point.
17.33.
Section.
Okay. And we're not talking, oh, here. M1.
Different issue.
Okay. What is a temporary storage structure?
I'm going to read the definition from the zoning code.
Okay.
Please bear with me. The print is very tiny on what I printed out.
Here's
Temporary storage structures intended may be permitted in any single-family or two-family zoning district, including the RS1 through RS7 and RD2 districts, provided that temporary storage structures may be installed on a property for a period not to exceed 30 consecutive or cumulative days without a permit or approval from the village if said structure is used for storing or moving vehicles, equipment, building materials, household or personal items while the property owner is moving to or from the property is being renovated, or for any emergency or other reasonable purpose deemed acceptable by the zoning administrator. Temporary storage structures allowed under the provisions may be located in a front, side, or rear yard of a property with a minimum setback of 10 feet from property lines. For purposes of this section, a temporary storage structure is defined as a detached building or other enclosed and/or covered structure intended for the shelter, storage, and/or conveyance of vehicles, equipment, building materials, household or personal items, junk and trash, etc., on a short-term basis less than 180 days. Examples of temporary storage structures include, but are not limited to, portable storage containers sold or rented under the business names of units, pods, and all other similar structures, freight-type shipping containers, metal frame and/or fabric-covered canopies, vehicle shelters or carports, hoop buildings, and dumpsters.
Thank you. So that includes like a big metal dumpster type thing for construction,
Yes.
and that can be, according to your definition, can be stored in the front yard.
Yes, for example, if somebody's renovating their house and they have a dumpster or large container placed on their driveway, that would technically be in their front yard.
Yeah, but right now it's 30. Okay.
It's time to renovate a house.
Yeah.
Your stuff, driving while you're renovating.
Right. And you're saying that you on item 2, wait, C2, what number is this? Oh, scroll up. Temporary storage unit structures. Anyway, the use of them can, under is this agriculture structures? Well, it can be deemed acceptable by the zoning administrator or plan commission, either one. Right. Right. This is all added in. And then the last question is, were there residents that requested this?
In a sense, over time, residents who obtained a 30-day permit came in, we need more time because our renovations are running longer. That helped with the decision to try and extend the period of time so we wouldn't have to go through the permitting process again for that sort of short duration. So in a sense, yes. And at the same time, there have been, as you are well aware, there's been situations in the village where people have placed temporary storage structures on properties without any permit or permission. And in some cases, that's been on property zoned agricultural, but used for residential purposes. And so there's a provision that's built in here that it tries to close that loophole, if you will, to catch those situations as well where shipping containers and large metal structures like that are being used for or in place of accessory buildings on property that arguably is residentially used and not used for agricultural purposes.
And the last question is there a cost to this permit?
Yes, the zoning permit currently is $175.
Okay. For any of these permits? And in this temporary?
A temporary use permit is $210.
Okay. Thank you.
Further discussion on a motion to approve. Trustee Rick Miller.
Yeah, this is, I think you just stated, this is the first time that ag is involved in this, in the A1 and A2 zones. Is that right?
Yes, because we have, there is, I don't want to call it a proliferation of shipping container usage, but it's coming. It's out there and there are a handful of sites that are using them. And frankly, if I'm moving in the wrong direction, you need to let me know collectively as a board. But my intention is to try and continue to encourage property owners to build buildings on their properties that have value and not use shipping containers and the equivalent of metal buildings that have little or no value for property taxing purposes.
That's where I'm going with this. I
The
mean,
aesthetics, but
A2, I can see that's 10 acres. A1, I have a concern about that. I mean, you're right. There's a lot of farms out there that use temporary storage on a regular basis, cost containment. A2, I'll admit, I took advantage of it. I had a temporary structure up for 3 years. I won't do that anymore because I have neighbors and I built the shed. But so I guess I can see the A2. I'm just not sure about the A1 being included in this. And I guess I'll defer to others on the board to see if I have any support on that or not. Also on item 7C in that amendment 4, I think you missed the 2 under A. So it should say A1 and A2 districts, right?
I just noticed that and I
Yeah.
wrote it down. You're right.
My problem with A1 is that you're now, farmers regularly put up temporary storage facilities or items. And I don't see that, first off, this is going to be very tough to enforce. And I don't want to hinder them from that. I think a farm is a different beast than it is. I understand the A2. A2 is 10 acres, hobby farm at best. But A1, I just don't think we should include that.
Further discussion. Trustee Kaminsky.
I agree with Trustee Miller. The agriculture district for true agriculture is a totally different animal than anything happening residentially. For the most part, you can't even see what's going on that property because of the acreage. And you don't know what a farmer's needs are going to be from day to day, year to year, whether it's storing grain till the price gets better, whether it's, you just don't know. I mean, I would totally support that. And I further have a question. You said this includes dumpsters?
The intention, yes.
So you'd have to pay for the dumpster and then pay for a $200 and some permit to have the dumpster on your property?
Yes.
That's excessive. I think that's absolutely insane, personally. I have a neighbor that's had a dumpster on his property probably for the better part of a year. Nobody cares. He's been remodeling and building onto this small house he bought, and nobody cares. And I'll bet you he doesn't have a permit. And, I think something like that, when it comes down to a dumpster or something that's needed for a temporary period of time, or even like these carports, these little hoop garages, I just can't see going out and paying another $200 and some to get a permit for that. That should be permit, fine. At that excessive level, not fine. I have a problem with that.
Further discussion. Trustee Cutts.
What's the difference between A1 and A2?
Couple of things. One, the minimum parcel size. Parcels that are 35 acres and larger are typically that are undeveloped and used for agricultural or have some conservancy purpose, wooded, floodplain, lowland. Those are zoned A1. Parcels, the minimum parcel size in the A2 district is 10 acres. As far as uses, the A2 district has a few more acceptable uses that are more intensive in terms of having things such as an Airbnb type structure in a residential unit. You can have that in an A2. More hobby farming type uses are permitted and encouraged in the A2 district. That's really, there's not a lot of differences, frankly. There's some uses that are allowed in A1 that in the code probably wouldn't happen in the village. Things such as a golf course in the A1 would be allowed, but not in the A2 district necessarily. A sanitary sewer treatment plant would be allowed in the A1 district, but not in the A2 district. The code has some quirks in it that arguably could be cleaned up, but at this point, those are the differences that I would point out. I would like to, if I could, add on with regard to the A1 district. We have a couple of properties in the village where owners have acquired property that is zoned A1 that for some purpose, for some reason, isn't 35 acres or larger. There's a number of those throughout the village. And some of them, a couple of them that come to mind, they have been purchased for purposes of hunting or some other non-agricultural use. But the owner indicates that they intend to use the shipping container for storage of their agricultural equipment, which really means, in my opinion, that they're going to be storing their UTVs and their other personal transportation vehicles that they'll be using for the hunting purpose in these shipping containers, as opposed to a barn or some other structure that's built on the property. That's really my intention with regard to the A1 district. And I'm open to removing that if that's what the board is inclined to do, leave just the A2 district in there, since that's the district of the two agricultural districts that is more inclined to be used for a non-agricultural, strictly residential purpose.
Further discussion? Trustee Hudson.
So I want to, if you would be so kind, please, just let's walk through a hypothetical in a residential district, if you don't mind. So if somebody comes in and puts, let's say, a large shipping container on their lot, the time starts when the village becomes aware of that, not when the shipping container is actually put there, correct? So it could exist for a year, and then we could get a complaint for the village, and that is when the 180 days would start.
It's conceivable that could be the case. I would say that we do now have very good aerial photography that is taken every 6 months. It's called Nearmap is the product name that enables us to look at properties at a scale that you can determine whether a shipping container was placed on there at a particular time period within 6 months.
So I have to ask, is that AI, or do we actually have to look at that with humans?
It's not AI, no, it's.
Okay, so we have to scan those ourselves.
Yes, whenever there's a, for example, if there's a complaint that's filed concerning,
Mhm.
you know, this property, you know, sometimes what happens is a property owner uses their property in a way that upsets a neighbor a little bit. And then they do something else and it's a little bit more. And the next time they do something else and it's a little bit more. And maybe that sequence has taken a course of 6 months or 9 months or a couple of years before finally they've had enough. And that's when they come in and they complain. And that's when we get the litany of all the things they've been doing wrong for the last 3 years. Well, how do we know necessarily that, you know, that the dwelling or the garage that's been rented out as an apartment has been done for the last 3 years? I mean, that's difficult for us to decipher. But if the accusation is they built a building on the property without a permit 2 years ago, we can go back
You can.
and look at the aerial photography. We have photography every 6 months that goes back to 2015.
Okay. And then, so we would, I mean, theoretically, it would be relatively easy to stay on top of the 180 days.
Yes, it would be
Thank
much
you.
easier to
Okay.
stay on top of that.
That's all I want. Thank you.
Further discussion? Trustee Rick Miller.
I just want to clarify something that trustee Kaminsky started here with the dumpsters. And that is, so if, let's say somebody's moving and they get a roll-off dumpster in their driveway for a week or two, they're supposed to get a permit for that?
Arguably, yes, a zoning permit. Now, there's an issue with that because most people aren't even aware of it.
I wasn't aware of that.
So when we become aware of it, if there's a complaint or we observe it, we'll approach the property owner and deal with it at that way. Now, if the owner says, I'm taking it off the property next week, well, we'll let it go. We're not going to enforce anything on that.
Okay.
I mean, we try and be reasonable.
Further,
Government officials.
I'd like to make we have a motion, right?
yes, we do.
Like make a motion to amend, item 7C on amendment 4. A lot of amendments. Removing the A1 district.
Motion made to amend and seconded. Discussion on that motion.
Can you please repeat the motion, trustee Nolan?
Amendment number 4, item 7C. I want to remove the A1 district.
Thank you.
Discussion on a motion to amend. Question. The placement, if that's removed, the placement of a temporary storage container can then be placed anywhere within the property? Based on just removing the A1?
Right now, the wording is in the rear yard of a property and meet setback requirements.
Isn't there currently a concern and a complaint about what could be considered an A1 property that is using storage containers as chicken coops?
Well, as listed here under 7C sub 1, there is an exemption, effectively an exemption. I'm sorry, it's in sub 2. Temporary storage structures installed on a property for a period greater than 180 consecutive or cumulative days may be permitted as a temporary use, subject to the temporary use permit requirements. Structures meeting the definition of a temporary storage structure that are used exclusively for agricultural purposes may be exempt from these restrictions if deemed acceptable by the zoning administrator or plan commission. That and as Attorney Sajak pointed out to me earlier, the right to farm laws may come into play that would provide additional protections for quote unquote farmers.
So that would be an acceptable use?
If it's I would say yes, because they're like a shipping container being used to create a home. A shipping container could be used for a chicken coop.
Okay.
Unless we were to define what a chicken coop, can or cannot be to address that. And if the desire is to keep shipping containers from being used as chicken coops, Brian, help me out here. Could we actually do that? Define out a shipping container? It could be used as a chicken coop?
Yeah, it would take some wordsmithing, but it could be done.
So on the flip side of that, when you're saying, we would need to define with the structure of what chicken coop could or could not be, in the sense of a shipping container, if someone would, have an A1 property and would want to, build call it a tiny home out of shipping containers, they would be able to do that?
I would say no. The intent is to allow it for agricultural purposes, and a tiny home, a home would be for a residential purpose.
Okay, so there'd be definitions that would protect against that. But with the change to this amendment, does it define, or have we defined the placement of where those containers can go? Or could they go in the front yard right off the street?
Well, in this definition, if it's for more than 180 days, it has to be in the rear yard.
Okay.
So if it's going to be used for chickens, then it would have to be in the rear yard.
Okay. All right, further discussion on a motion to amend? No further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. Trustee Peeper, how do you vote?
I said aye.
Thank you. Back to the motion as amended. Further discussion? No further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? One opposed. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is new business item E, settlement agreement and release between the village and Heritage Place joint venture related to impact fees. Village Attorney?
Sure. I don't really have too much of a presentation. Obviously, most of what we talked about, we did in closed session a couple meetings ago in terms of what's here. You'll recall that the primary concern at the time of discussing the potential settlement was really the allocation of the impact fee amounts. You'll recall that we had kind of a heavy lean on the park impact fees, which was objectionable to at least one trustee. So the board asked us to kind of relook at it, consider, where we have funds available, where funds are already allocated, and then come back with a proposal in terms of where those are, together with the information related to the balances on the accounts, just so that you guys could see what was there. So in front of you is the actual agreement as formalized, just to have you guys, kind of bless it formally, although you've already approved it in a sense. But really, we're just looking to get the sense of whether that allocation is the right allocation that we're looking at or not.
Trustee Chan Miller?
So we have to take this from impact fees that were already collected, correct? To pay back the impact fees?
Correct. I don't know that there's another source of funds that we would look at that would make sense. So for example, we wouldn't go to the general fund dollars because those are dollars that are allocated for other purposes. The impact fees are collected for impact fees. That's where the complaints arose. And so that's where the funds probably should come from.
So on this second chart, is that the amount that was actually collected within 2022?
No, those are the ending balances of the accounts at the end of the year. So that would include
Impact fees.
correct, but that would include funds that had been collected Basically, we can keep impact fees for 10 years by statute before they need to be refunded to the source that they came from. So that amount that you're seeing reflects everything that had been collected for the previous 10 years, basically.
Okay. All right.
From development.
From development.
Mm-hmm.
So is there a percentage that, or I remember from the library, the impact fee was a set amount per unit that was built, right? So what, I just feel we're still taking more out of Park and Rec. But I see, yes, and I see that we collected a little bit more, but they also gave a lot in the last budget.
It's a straight percentage, isn't it?
It's a straight percent?
Mm-hmm.
With the exception of sewer.
Right.
Okay. What is the ratio?
What was the question?
What is the ratio? What is the percent?
It was allocated out based upon the amount that each impact fee had for a balance. So you can see that fire had the lowest balance in their impact fee fund, so they paid the lowest portion, the lowest percentage of the overall amount. The sewer utility does not segregate impact fees. They are part of the overall unrestricted fund balance for sewer, which is 4.7 million at the end of 2022.
Trustee Hudson?
Year end 2022 as opposed to year end 2023? Why?
We don't have the final numbers for year end 2023 yet.
Ratios change significantly year over year or no?
Depending on development. Trustee Cutts.
So for clarification for me, since you said you can hold them for 10 years, when you set impact fees, you're best guessing what it takes to cover each of these services. So how do you know if you haven't used it and you have to refund it? I mean, how do you track that?
Sure. Certainly, I can't speak specifically in terms of how historically it's been tracked. I think at the time it was a spreadsheet. I think it then got maybe put into MSI, maybe not, in terms of what's there. Certainly the new software has the ability to robustly track the impact fees. But yeah, I mean, it's effectively first in, first out is typically how they're spent. And you would then utilize those based on the needs assessment that's done for each particular impact fee. That needs assessment typically will identify projects that we think would be needed within the community as a result of new development, basically. So as part of that, you then set the fee that would be attributable to that new development as opposed to the need that's just currently existing within the community as we sit here before any development takes place. And then allocate that out. And then, as I say, those fees are really intended to be spent within that 10 years. And that's one of the reasons why if you were at GGF or would go back and listen to GGF, that realistically those impact fee needs analysis should be updated more frequently because you're able to then identify, as interest change as things get paid for, what that next thing might be so that you're not running afoul of the impact fee law when you get to a point where you say, hey, we've got money, but we don't have anything in our needs assessment necessarily that we can spend it on. And how do we deal with that? And so not that we're in that position here, but that certainly could be a possibility. And we've seen it in some other communities that they get into that point and, then they've got to refund all that money basically because they don't have any projects to spend it on. So,
Okay, thank you.
And you go through that as part of GGF, correct, Trustee Rick Miller?
We just had a preview tonight or the RFP is going out, so we had a review of the RFP tonight.
You also have tracking of impact fees, where they're at and what monies need still to be spent or what's coming up due.
Right. And I know there's lots of restrictions on impact fees and what they can be utilized for, so it's very specific.
Okay. We need a motion, or if there's other questions, trustee Chan Miller?
I just wanted clarification. This is kind of cattywampus. For your reference, it's the second dollar amounts. Year-end 2022 balance. It's got police, fire, park and rec, water impact. The next page says sewer connection not segregated. And then there's a $59,126. Is that supposed to go to the library? Was that from the library?
Yes. Yeah, I don't know what happened to the formatting there, but yes, the sewer connection is the not segregated, as Mr. Kreckler just indicated. That just goes into the general fund, if you will, for the sewer, and then the library is that 59,000.
Well, why would it go in the general fund?
Not the village's general fund, but the sewer utilities, basically general fund. What's the official term? The unallocated or
Unrestricted.
unrestricted, that's the one.
Make a motion to approve the settlement agreement as presented.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion on the motion to approve. I think as was discussed and as we learned from the village attorney, these monies are not coming out of the general fund. These monies are not coming from the residents. They're a result of paying back fees that were paid by developers or developments, and from the totals that are in each of those different impact fee funds. This refund is coming from those, not from general fund ledger, not from property taxes. Further discussion on a motion to approve. No further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Warren.
Aye.
Trustee Cutts.
Aye.
Trustee Baum. Trustee Jan Miller.
No.
Trustee Hetson.
No.
Trustee Rick Miller.
Aye.
Trustee Kaminsky.
Aye.
Trustee Pieper.
Aye.
Village President Walter.
Aye. Motion passes. Before we adjourn, our next village board meeting will be on June, what's the first Monday? 3rd, thank you, at 7 PM here at the Village Hall Boardroom. Thank you all for coming tonight, and thank you all for watching. Have a good night. We are adjourned. There we go.
Heavy sign.